It's not often that I delve back in time to when I was a wee lad. But sometimes it becomes necessary to acknowledge the myriad of experiences that have made me into the awesome dude that I am today. Whether this particular experience factors into my awesome dudeness is debatable, but necessary nonetheless. I was in 7th grade and sitting on the bleachers in the gym before school just like everyone else did before the first bell. I patiently waited the release of myself and the rest of the prepubescent pimple-faced horde from the gym so we could get to class and begin what would only surely be another day of half-assed, mediocre public education. That was when I smelled it. Shit. Someone around me smelled like shit, and I don't mean they just smelled bad. I mean they smelled like actual excrement. Fresh excrement, to be exact. I swiveled my head around, trying to locate the poor sap, who had apparently just shit their pants, so I could quietly cast disapproval upon them whilst removing myself from the area. I brought my left foot up to rest on the bleacher in front of me, and the smell swelled with a pungent, shitty intensity. Surely this person had to be aware of how absolutely terrible they smelled. But maybe they didn't care. Maybe it was their own form of silent protest against something, and who was I to decry someone for exercising their constitutional right? I may not agree with their methods, but I will defend to the death their right to shit themselves. Fuck yeah. Then I saw it.
Oh no!
I glanced down for a This is serious. I only glanced down for a second, but that was all it took for me to realize what had happened. Caked against the side of my ultra-sweet Nike Air Force shoes was very fresh, very gnarly, and very smelly dog shit. The poor sap was me! The bell rang, igniting a Pavlovian response from the entirety of students on the bleachers, and my classmates filed past in droves as I sat frozen, unsure what my next move should be. I could hear comments of kids as they passed, like, "What's that smell? Bro, who farted? Ew, someone's a big pee pants." Kids can be so cruel. Soon I was one of the only people left lingering as the custodial staff began to walk the bleachers and pick up trash left behind by my selfish, spoiled peers. I was going to have to do something, and fast, so I went with my gut. I slowly scraped my shit shoe across the edge of the bleacher, which left a brilliantly thick smear of bright orange shit sludge across my shiny pine. The smell's intensity tripled and then quadrupled, leaving me to believe the dog that gifted this surprise must have been really sick. "John Wayne," came the authoritative bark of the assistant principal. "Let's go, son. Move your ass and get to class." I stood up, slung my bag over my shoulder, and headed down to the bleachers without looking back, hoping I'd left the worst of my problem behind. I felt a slight tinge of guilt over knowing some poor custodian was going to have to deep clean my mess, but I didn't dwell. I had bigger issues to deal with. I walked the hall quickly with my head down and made a beeline for the boys' room and locked myself in a stall. I reassessed my situation, displeased that the shit smell was still very much present and more pungent than the 7th grade boys' bathroom. I kicked the offending shoe off, mummified my hand in toilet paper, and attempted to clean the rest of the shit off. I cursed the uselessness of the one-ply paper and wondered just what my parents' tax money was going towards paying anyway. Not quality toilet paper, that's for sure. I managed to get the crusty slime off my side of my Air Force, but the white leather was stained an ugly shade of burnt orange. The underside of the shoe was a disaster unto itself. I wrapped my hand in the pathetic toilet tissue 3 more times and vigorously rubbed the meticulously designed tread the athlete geniuses at Nike no doubt spent years developing, but it was to no avail. The greasy mongrel's greasy shit was caked between the rubber grooves to such an extent that nothing short of a few hours with a screwdriver and a water pick was going to fix. The tardy bell rang as I flushed, slipped my shoe back on, and slowly trudged to get a pass. I hung back at the tardy station, waiting for the most of the other Johnny-come-latelys to move on, hoping none of them could smell the still very present odor emanating from my shoe. I slipped into my English class, placed the pass on my teacher's desk, mumbled a sorry, and took my seat. I opened the book on my desk, but wasn't paying attention to the lesson. I had to do something. I mean, there was no way I could go through the rest of the day wearing a shit shoe while trying to pretend that I wasn't. I'd only just sat down, and the smell had made its way back up to my nostrils. It was only a matter of time before... "What's that smell?" came the voice of the girl sitting in front of me. She was not emanating. "Please keep quiet," scolded our teacher, Ms. Cox. "You know better, and I don't smell anything." Yet. She didn't smell anything yet, but soon she and everyone else would, and I would be caught. There was no escape from the tsunami of ridicule sure to come my way once I was outed as old Poo Shoe. There was no more time to think, and I knew a preemptive strike was my only way out of this. I was going to have to fall on my own sword to get out of this situation. I was going to have to cry. This wouldn't be a hard thing to achieve given the tremendous stress of my current situation had put me under, coupled with the fact that I was a giant pussy when I was a kid. I mean a tremendously huge, giant pussy. "I smell something," interrupted the girl again. "It smells like... Miss Cox," I said, shooting up my hand into the air. "Can I talk to you for a second?" "Right now? Are you okay?" Well, not really." I began working the lump up in my throat as I stood and approached her desk with the invisible shit smell following every step of the way. By the time I reached her, I was good and ready to let the levee break. I started pointing down at my shoe. I stepped in. That was all I got out before I launched into full-on cry mode, complete with alligator tears and a few well-timed choking sobs. "I told you I was a giant pussy." It took Miss Cox a minute or so to actually decipher what I was trying to tell her, but once the smell hit her, she understood all too well. I gave myself over fully to the crying, despite her attempts to calm me, until she finally relinquished a hall pass that would grant me access to the nurse's office. The entire class was very confused as to what was actually happening, given the intensity of my emotional outburst, but I didn't care. I had to get out of there. The nurse seemed more put off than concerned by my theatrics, but she eventually saw it my way, and I got what I wanted in the form of a phone call to my mom, who was teaching at the elementary school a few blocks away. I explained my situation, and she hit me with some follow-up questions, to which I answered succinctly. No, I couldn't clean it off. No, I didn't want her to bring me different shoes. Yes, I did want her to come get me and take me home. Of course, that was not what she wanted to do at all, but I turned the waterworks back on, and a few minutes later, she was found someone to watch her class so she could come get me. I stayed home the rest of the day, tried to clean my shoe with the water hose and a butter knife, but still couldn't get the job done as thoroughly as I wanted. The next day, I dug out my shitty, but not shit-covered shoes from the previous school year. They were ratty and unimpressive, beat-up British knights, but they would have to do. I looked at the ground the entire walk to school to ensure I didn't make the same mistake again. I took my seat in English class and immediately buried my head in my book, hoping no one would notice me. The girl sat in front of me, spun around, and to confront me right away. "Why were you crying yesterday?" she asked. Surprisingly, I hadn't prepared a response to this question. Ridicule I expected, but not questions, so I threw out the answer on the fly. "My father's dead," I said confidently. "Oh, really?" The color drained from her youthful round face. "Yes." "Oh, okay." The girl slowly turned back around in her seat, signaling the end of our conversation. To my delight, she was the only one who even asked me about the incident. I guess everyone else who saw me crying realized they were not yet emotionally equipped to help with whatever the hell might have been wrong with me. Not much has changed since then. My dad's not really dead. I still step in dog shit from time to time, and I often still do cry about it. But now they're tears of joy. I guess one thing has changed since then, though. I am no longer in the 7th grade. Thank you.